Stand by, folks. We are experiencing some changes being made on certain platforms. And we're just going to run the bumper for a moment to adjust, make some changes. I think that YouTube is offline. PJNet.tv will be live shortly. Please stand by. Facebook is online, Periscope online, Periscope online, Periscope online. Periscope is online 9 times. Have viewers, Facebook live, online. YouTube says it's online. All right, folks, PJNet.tv. We will get started in spite of the difficulty that we may be having. We are streaming on most platforms, and we have a bumper running. We have a guest waiting, and we will count down to Studio 8 in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Well, good evening. Welcome to a new week at PJNet.tv, and I'm your host, Coach Prasick, and we are navigating through some troubled waters at the moment. It appears that there is something, well, we know that there are changes happening on YouTube that should take effect at the end of the month. However, we are also having other difficulties, I think. However, we are streaming on many platforms such as Facebook and Twitter, Periscope, and so forth. And we will bring every month Doug Carter, a familiar face in the PJNet.tv chat room, comes to us, and he was there a moment ago. He really was, I promise. And I think we have lost internet somewhere along the line. Bear with us, folks. Yeah, I see you out there. Just checking on some things. Not only am I the host, I am the engineer. We are streaming on Facebook's, on the PJNet Facebook page. We are streaming on Periscope, Twitter, Barbara Byers, streaming on Periscope Refugee, streaming on, well, we have lost a stream on Periscope. Del Didway stream is up. YouTube is up. Facebook is up. Okay. Let me make a quick rendezvous. Still waiting. Something has gone wrong. Hold on. We're going to restart that. And YouTube, I think YouTube is down. Folks, I do. And okay, here comes, I think we're going to get Doug back, and we do. We have Doug back. We kind of lost you there for a second, Doug. It appears to me that YouTube is actually down. Okay. Can't be sure, so we're just going to have to use the time we've got. I'm going to make one test. Yes, youtube.com, when I go there, it says server not found. So that's going to create some real problems for us. In any event, Doug, carrying on, you have been on the road. You are not only on the road on a journey, you're on another type of journey, not literally a logistical journey, but a journey of writing. And so let's start with the easy one. It's Labor Day, the end of summer, so you wanted to end the summer with a bang, right?
Yes, sir. And so we went up to Charlottesville, Virginia. And I wanted to go see some of the sites up there, some of the historical places. We ended up going to James Monroe's house, 5th U.S. president. Went by Trump's place up there, hit an old tavern, and just wanted to get a feel for what the place was like. I've never been to Charlottesville. Rode around the campus. Of course, that's kind of in my field, and that was interesting. But we went downtown to the historic district in Charlottesville so we could see where the protests were held. and walked around the monuments, and we could see the damage on the monuments. It's very disheartening to see that. A lot of graffiti that mostly was cleaned off, but you could still see where it was. But I just wanted to get my son out and see these places. It's part of history, and you need to be a part of that. While we were there, I found this little place. I don't know if you can see that, but I found my own mountain.
In front of your face a little bit. There we go.
How about that?
In front of your face.
How about in front of the camera?
Now up in front, just cover your. There you go. Carter's Country Orchard.
There we go. I've got my own mountain overlooking the city of Charlottesville. It's the only mountain with my name on it that I have ever been able to climb. So that's pretty exciting for me.
Oh, you went there this weekend?
Went there this weekend, and then we took a trip down on the way back. Stopped by Natural Bridge in Virginia. It's an absolutely phenomenal place. One of the most beautiful places I've ever been. It looks like a river has just carved its way through a really tall rock. And if you were to walk along the path and see this place, there you go. If you were to walk along and see this calm, tranquil stream, you're wondering how in the world could this have possibly happened? Did it take millions of years, or was there something else? And as you know, Coach, as a philosophy guy, I'm always concerned with truth and searching out truth, and I look for scientific evidence of truth. And the interesting thing is, we're looking at limestone rock, but as you go upstream, you can almost see where a larger body of water, a wider river, has carved its way down through the valley there and just got to a narrow point, and it was forced to go somewhere. I don't know how that happened, but I do know that there's marine sediments east and west of this area. So we know that at one point there was an ocean in this area, and I kind of want to believe that maybe the ocean drained and carved that out, but I don't know. I don't have evidence. It's just a fun thing to speculate about.
Is there guided tours through there that kind of what was their take on it?
There are guided tours, but they're not yesterday. With COVID, I didn't see any tour guides out.
Okay.
Yeah. So on the way back, we have to go past Martinsville, Virginia. And Martinsville, Virginia has a Museum of Natural History. And inside, they've got this great big stromatolite. Now, stromatolite, if you're not sure what that is, it's a mass of algae and bacteria, I guess, mixed with sand and silt. I don't know exactly how it comes together, but it almost looks like a mushroom top, and it grows in shallow seas, so in intertidal areas. Mm-hmm. Well, they found this one in a rock quarry at the edge of the Blue Ridge Mountains in Western Virginia.
Okay.
So how did that get there? And it's just fun. It's just fascinating to see the take on the geology of Virginia through the museum and the rift that was created. They show the Atlantic Basin, the rift where Africa and North America split apart. It's just fun stuff to speculate on, think about.
Yeah, Ben Cooper's all over. By the way, it appears that things are back online. If they were ever off, the problem may have been here locally. But anyway, Ben Cooper he's got all kind of theory on this. The water had to recede somewhere, and the limestone is the easiest rock for the water to erode out. Now, we know this in Florida. We call those sinkholes. Florida,
get lots of those.
Yeah, the Florida Peninsula is basically limestone, and doggone it, houses get swallowed in cars and get it's actually quite of a problem, and it's naturally occurring. So you've been traveling until today?
Well, we got back late yesterday.
Okay, how many miles you put in?
I don't even count. It was a short trip.
Okay.
It was only 3.5 hours up there.
And you've got lots of video of all this that we're going to see on YouTube and such?
Not lots of video. I had my son and a friend, and they said, "No, stop, none of that. Just enjoy it." So I got a little bit,
Yeah.
just a very little bit of video.
Okay, well, a little teaser for Wednesday night. Lori, our monthly Lori Hayes, will be here, and she's already got video of her Labor Day weekend activity. So, but I guess now when you go on these trips, is it for recreation or inspiration?
It's both. It's both. I like to get in high areas where I've got a really good vantage point, and just reflect. Like for there, where we were there, I could see pastures below. I could see the vineyards all around. I could see the campus. I could see the orchards around me, and all of that just summarizes my life. I'm a college professor, so I was interested in the campus. I grew up around farms, and I was a flock supervisor at one time, so the animals resonated with me. And I've got a degree in agronomy, and I taught horticulture for a while. So seeing the animals and the plants and the orchards, it was just, and being up on top, and just looking down on everything was just fascinating for me. And it drives home the one word that describes who I am better than anything else, and that's that Greek word for shepherd. It's the word poimen. And it just, being up there, I just thought about that a lot, and my purpose in life, and what I need to do to be obedient to the calling that God's placed upon me. I know that I can trace my entire life back to that one word, and I didn't understand the things that I went through at the times that I went through them. I would have never chosen to do some of the careers that I've done, but God led me along the way, and there was a lesson in all of it. And that lesson comes out. I'm going to be teaching on a system of thinking like a shepherd, and it goes by the acronym FLAW, or flawed: feed, light, air, and water. And I think JD could probably attest to a lot of that, and probably Ben too. And you know that every plant, every animal, and every person needs feed, light, air, and water. And then you got the dirt, the soil that holds it all together. And if you want to maximize your life, if you want to be the best version of you that you can be, then you can take these principles that the shepherd understands and apply them. Like the light, that's an acronym for the understanding, the enlightenment, and clarity of thought. It helps you to see clearly. And let's see, feed, you want to eat the word of God. Jesus said, "I am the bread of life." Well, what do you do with the bread of life? Well, you need to eat and take in the life of Christ daily to be nourished. Air comes into play with thinking about the temperature. You don't want to come across too hot or too cold to another person. You think about the Holy Spirit in the form of air, and the Spirit moves wherever it wants to. And you have to step back and with an air of humility, understand that the Holy Spirit can touch any person at any given time, and so treat everybody with grace, the grace that God gives us. Water, that symbolizes cleansing, symbolizes hydration. You don't want to wither away, so you want to hydrate yourself daily. You want clean water, not bitter water. You want to give other people clean water and not bitter water. Jesus used a lot of his miracles. He used water in a lot of his miracles. Thinking about when he spit on the ground, made the mud, wiped it on the person's eyes, the blind man's eyes, and then wiped it off. So there's a lot of that. Jesus' first miracle was turning water into wine.
It seems to me also when he put that muddy paste on the eyes of the blind man, he told him to go wash.
Yes.
Go wash in that whatever that area was. It was a special area, some kind of special water, some sort of spring or hot spring or something.
And when they had the wilderness tabernacle and they marched around the desert with that, they had that laver, the bronze laver. And when you walked through that gate, and they had one gate which symbolized Christ. You had to go through there, and then you presented your burnt offering. You were absolutely filthy. Think about the blood and the guts and the feces, and then you got that on you, and then you walk over and the smoke, and then you walk over and you look at yourself in that brazen water, that mirror-like effect, and you see yourself filthy as God sees you, and then you have to wash. So lots of symbolism there with the water, and then you got the dirt. And when I was a golf course superintendent, I picked up on this quite early. The nematodes in the ground, those invisible insects that wreak havoc.
Mocap will fix that. It's probably illegal.
And Nemacure put a lot of that out.
Stuff stinks.
It's dangerous stuff too.
I'm sure it's against the law now.
But we focus on what's in the dirt, what's in their soil, what are we rooted in, what are we grounded in, what are those invisible things that attack our lives, those little invisible sins that maybe we know about and other people don't know about. But then you have to look at the other influences in our environment. Maybe what's the TV bringing into your home, or what are those words that our coworkers are saying to us to tear us down. There's lots of little microbes around us at all times that are just nipping away at us. When I was a flock supervisor, I had a farm that I was in charge of, and the poor fellow, the farmer, just finished on the bottom every single week, and they competed with each other, so to see who had the best flock every week. And the person with the best flock got the most money, and then they kind of split it up from there. And we were about to cut him off and tell him he couldn't grow anymore. And I said, let's try something else. Let's take about 4 inches of your dirt out and replace it and see what happens. And the company agreed to do that. He agreed to do it. And then he just started finishing on top every week after that. So you have to really be careful of what your dirt is. And, Jesus taught about the parable of the soils. So what kind of seed are we putting our soil, or what kind of soil are we putting our seed in? And we got to be careful not to be too hard-headed, not to be too rocky, but we want to be chiseled. Sometimes that chiseling isn't fun.
No, you were mentioning, soil, and we have so many. We're very blessed. I mean, we've got JD's a rancher, and Ben is he knows all things agricultural, and you have an agricultural background. But I was part of something in high school called Youth Conservation Corps, and what I learned is that there is a thin strip of topsoil, maybe an inch or 2 or 3, and if we don't protect that rich topsoil, we'll all starve. There's plenty of dirt out there, but there's only that little ribbon of topsoil that is the organic, I guess, that's got the organic content. And our government, when you look at county extension agents and all these people, that's what they were there to protect, is that vulnerable, thin layer that provides all the nutrients upon which everything else is dependent. So we need to protect that layer and be good stewards of that layer, because the water will wash it away, or will wash away the organic content, leaving behind only the sand. When you go to the beach, there's not a whole lot of organic content in that sand, and stuff don't grow too good down there.
No, and you're right. And also, as a crop grows, it takes nutrients out of the soil. Some plants grow and they take more nutrients out than others, and you have to keep replacing those nutrients. So you're absolutely right. I happen to live in an area this mostly sand, and there's very little organic matter in the soil, so we're constantly having to add amendments and fertilizers, and just keep feeding the soil.
Yeah, organic content is what makes dirty dirt. I mean, dirt dirty. Okay. Notice when you go to the beach, you can just rub that sand between your hands. Your hands are still clean, right? But go to a good old mud field, and you'll notice all that brown stuff sticks to. That's the organic content. And humans, by the way, or most all mammals are based on carbon. We are organic in our
Yes.
very makeup, our very being. is organic. Now, Doug, we're going to run a little late today because we had a hard time getting started. But your journeys are involving more than relaxation, involve more than recreation, but they also involve inspiration.
Yeah, every time I go somewhere, I'm looking to get my mind off of where I'm at and get out of the box and look for a story. I'm always looking for a story. So this trip, I came across the idea of truth and reality, and what is true. We take it for granted when somebody tells us, okay, this is what happened a long time ago. Do I know that that stream carved out that big hole in the rock over a course of 300 million years? Well, nobody was around to verify that, so we need to look at more evidence. And I just got through teaching a class on critical thinking in which I challenged my students to not take everything that everybody says that's an authority figure and for granted. But you need to challenge that because other people have different viewpoints, and you need to look at all the evidence. We call that abductive reasoning, trying to come up with the best explanation for the evidence that we have and not to inject our own ideas. So when I tell you that I think that that was where the ocean might have gone through, I don't want you to take that and say, well, okay, that's his opinion. I'm just throwing out a possibility. And the rules of good abductive reasoning says consider everything until you can rule it out. And I don't think that I can rule it out at this point.
Right. One of the common, and some of it is counterintuitive and defies what most people would call common sense. When you go to the Grand Canyon, you're going to be told, that the Colorado River carved that canyon over a period of millions of years. Now, it makes plenty of sense because you're at the top, you're looking down at the bottom, there's the Colorado River, and you can see the layers, and you say, well, that had to be. Well, okay, all right. Now, the Colorado River kind of snakes around, but think of this. If you could find the north rim of the Grand Canyon and gauge its altitude, and then go to the southern rim of the Grand Canyon and gauge its altitude, you would find that the southern rim is higher in altitude than the northern. So if it is true that the Colorado River carved that canyon, then it would also have to be true that water ran uphill to do it.
Right.
There must be some other explanation, perhaps a worldwide flood.
I think about the worldwide flood, but there's also that passage in Genesis that talks about in the Begats, and in the days of Peleg the son of Eber, the earth was divided. Mm-hmm. Well, that was after mankind was building the pyramids on the earth, after the Tower of Babel incident, and you've got evidence of civilizations and shared beliefs all over the world. I mean, ask yourself, how in the world did the concept of a totem end up in the Pacific Northwest, but also in Australia among the Aboriginals there? Mm-hmm. And then, of course, there's pyramids in Central America. There are ziggurats, which the Tower of Babel was thought to be a ziggurat. There are ziggurats, and I think I told you about the one I visited in Alabama, Moundville, Alabama. How did they know to build that? What about the serpent myths all over the world? Mm-hmm. Fiji, the god of agriculture, was a snake. Mm-hmm. Thinking about the Garden of Eden.
What tickles me is... go ahead, Doug.
Yeah, and then you talk about in the Chinese culture, the Asian cultures, you got the dragon. Mm-hmm. Well, what was the serpent before it lost its legs and was cursed to crawl on the ground? Mm-hmm. But go ahead. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
There's this. I used to love watching the History Channel. They've got this Greek professor guy. He looks kind of stupid, but he's always pushing the idea that aliens, there is no God, that aliens came to Earth and interacted with humans and gave us all this technology to build all this stuff. And what he uses as evidence is drawings on caves and artifacts, pottery, And I thought to myself, you are a PhD. You're a brilliant man. there is more evidence for gargoyles and dragons and unicorns than there are alien. You know, if you were going to use artifactual evidence from the culture as a record, as historic and scientific record, you are woefully off course, buddy. You are. But they put him on there as an expert. So challenge your students to come up with what I just did. Show them that episode and say, are there also... I would love to ask that man, well, then I guess there's gargoyles too. You believe in that?
You got to look at their starting premise and the starting point, and a lot of these people just flat out reject the idea of God. Mm-hmm. And what do you end up with if you start out with that?
They'll grab at anything. They'll cling to anything. And
anything but God.
Anything but God. And you're exactly right, because I said he was godless. He's a smart guy, very articulate, very learned, but can't see how stupid his argument is.
And he's probably thinking the same thing about you. And me.
I'd love to meet him. I'd love to be on camera with him, because I would embarrass the snot out of him. Old high-tech redneck here going to whoop your.
We don't want to do that. We don't want to embarrass anybody. We just want to throw the idea out there and let them think about it later.
Well, Doug, you're a professor. I'm a coach. I run the score up, sir. That way they don't want to play you again. Anything you can tell us about your writing journey?
Yes,
you can announce you will tell us later, maybe.
I've actually I've got a fire lit under me. My editor says that it's time to get it out. It needs to be out before October, and plenty of time to get shared before the election, because there's things that need to get out that just aren't being told. Mm-hmm. And so we're going to meet on Thursday, come up with a schedule, get it out there. So I've hit some milestones. I got a lot of clarification in the last couple of weeks. The message is coming together. It's cohesive, and now I can weave it in, and the book just won't be like a info dump. It's actually going to lead along the way. So I'm excited about it. I can't wait to get that going.
Yeah, without knowing the details, I sense that there is some real earth-shattering stuff if we can just get it noticed. If it were to get noticed by the right people, it would change the landscape. But getting noticed is hard to do these days, Doug. It's hard.
Getting noticed is hard to do, and I was challenged, with what I write about to come up with a way to stand out. How would somebody go along? Why would somebody go along in a bookstore and pick up my book as opposed to some of these guys with huge platforms that everybody knows? And the reality is I can't compete with that. But what I can do is compete in my own niche, with my own message, in my own unique way. And that's how I'm crafting the book now. So I'm excited about that. We've got a plan, and it's working. So,
well, I have given much thought. I hear all this stuff about platform and branding, and even though I'm not a writer, I do dedicate a lot of thought into how can we advocate, Christian authors. And a thought came to my mind. I haven't refined it, but I wanted to just share it with everybody out there. And hopefully we could develop this a little bit and get some better insight. But a lot of times when I see social media posts, people are trying to promote their product, their book, blah, blah, blah. But I got thinking, isn't platform or branding what people know about you other than your book? Do they know
That's
you at
exactly
all?
Right.
That's
exactly right.
Right. I'm trying to figure out how can we get people just to know us and trust us. And then, that to me is a broader foundation, a firmer foundation, because you're going to write more than one book perhaps. So if it's all about the book, well, once they've bought the book, that's the end of that. And everybody.
So what I'm learning.
Go ahead.
Yeah, what I'm learning is build creation pieces where things that you're not trying to sell anything, but you're trying to build connection and say, hey, here's how I feel. This is where I stand. And you'll attract the people that feel the same way. You're just not trying to sell them anything at this point. Now, once they latch on and you build the connections, then you can lead them into the next step, into something called thought reversals. Hey, if and the thought reversal works like this. Hey, here's how we think. Here's the status quo. But let's look at it a completely different way. What if this were the case? What if we could go here? And you give them a way out of the box and something new to think about. And if they still latch onto that, then you can lead them into this other area you want to go. And that's the approach I'm using.
I watched a documentary on a car company that is no longer in existence, and I'm getting messages from Casper that he's not able to connect, so we're going to have to wrap it up here pretty quick. The
Okay.
American Motors Company, remember them? They had this right when the 74, 75 along in there, they came out with a compact car called the Gremlin. And they had a hard time producing that thing. They had a lot of stumbling blocks along the way. But once it came out, it was the most successful launch of any car ever in the history of automotive. Just period. The following year, it flopped. It just, nobody bought them. And they figured it out. Everybody that wanted one, got one. and if you think about that tremendous zenith of success, they sold a bunch of them. Well, that could be like a book. Okay, you put your heart in it, you write the book, and everybody buys it, and then next year you can't sell any. Everybody's already bought it. Okay. All right, I'm going to wrap it up. Let me, we are running late. Let me get a note to Casper real quick. Give me a wrap-up word, and I will talk to Casper by way of text here.
All right. Well, thanks for having me on, Coach. I really enjoyed it. I'm looking forward to meeting everybody in the chat room here in a few minutes and catching up. I've been out and about for a while, so I need to catch up with everybody.
All right.
I'll see you soon.
All right, come on in the chat room. I'm going to go try to make contact with Casper. He is eager to get going. Doug, thank you for sharing with us. I'm glad we enjoyed going on the trip with you, and we'll do it again next month, and you'll have some news for us then, I bet.
That's right.
All right, folks. We are going to wrap it up real quick. 2 questions. Number 1, what is the boldest thing you've ever done for Jesus Christ? Number 2, when was that? Folks, if we're going to make a difference and move the needle, we can never let ourselves be satisfied with either answer.